All right, board is green.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming this evening. I think we're going to have a great time, and I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to tell your friends, the more the merrier. That's how we'll learn from each other. The train show is still going very well, as far as I can tell. It's September the 19th at 1 o'clock Eastern. Dylan, if you want to post them, we can show you the 25 modeling manufacturers that we've invited, and we think it's just an outstanding list of companies, and we think that you're really going to enjoy hearing from them and seeing them and hearing about their modeling. So hope you'll come to us and join us and pass the word for us. If you haven't done so far, if you'll give Dylan your email address so we can send out the links to our shows for you. If you give him your email, your name, and scale, we would appreciate it. And that's all I really have to say tonight. I want to introduce our featured modeler, Steve Milley, who owns Rail Scale Models. And we're so happy, Steve, that you would agree to join us this evening. I've been really looking forward to this. And with that said, hope everybody enjoys hearing what Stephen has to say. Steve, it's all yours.
All right. Hey, Jim, can you give us an idea how does that train show on the September 29th supposed to work? Because I'm just kind of getting the newest information on that.
It's the 19th, not the 29th.
Sorry.
So if you come the 29th,
29th for you, Steve.
I won't sell much on the 29th, probably.
What we've done is we've offered everybody 5 minutes to try to keep it around 2 hours or give or take time limit. We've limited to 25 companies. And I don't know whether Dylan's got them on the chat thing yet or not, but you can see the companies that we've invited. And it's come on, you talk about your company, whatever you want to say, however you want to say it. You can get extra time up to 2 of the 5-minute slots if you want to, and it's going to be up to each company to talk about what they want to talk about, how they want to present it, use the time. The people that log into the show will be able to comment to you on the chat function, as well as direct email. All of the sales between the vendors and the buyers will be direct to the seller. We'll be giving your email address at the time that each company comes on for their time, and we're hoping that the companies are going to cooperate with us and kind of stick to the time frame so that we can keep it moving and keep it to around 2 hours or so. We plan to have an open discussion period at the very end so that anybody's there that can make any comments or suggestions or whatever they want to talk about, and then we'll close it down. We hope the vendors make a lot of money from it. We hope the sellers learn about vendors maybe they haven't heard about before. We haven't invited the large manufacturers like Lionel, Bachman, the big guys. We've tried to keep this to the companies that we think people would really be interested in hearing about, and maybe some of them are new to the market, some of them are from Australia and different countries, and we've tried to mix it up a little bit so that it's not just homogeneous kind of a train show.
Okay, thanks for that. I just am getting up to speed on that. And it looks like I did make the list, so I guess I better be there on the 19th.
Yeah, the 19th would be a good at 1 o'clock. And what Dylan's going to do is Dylan's going to send everybody out, exactly what time they'll have, within the thing and so forth. I've asked Dylan to be the first company, so that because he'll be running the whole thing and make sure everything works well. And so he'll have the first slot, and then everybody else will, be assigned a slot after that.
Cool. All right, that sounds good. Now I know what I'm expected to do on the 19th.
Yes, sir. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you make a lot of money from it. That's the purpose of it. and maybe to introduce you to people that maybe haven't, been customers before and so forth. I will.
Sure.
Dylan gave me a flyer that I'm going to be posting on various Facebook groups starting tomorrow, all the ones that I belong to. And I asked Chris a few minutes ago, since he's also one of the people that we've invited, if he had any ideas, please let me know about how he would suggest that we try to promote it, because the goal here is for the vendors. That's basically, it's the vendors and the buyers. That's who we're after right now. The $10 has two purposes. Number one, we're hoping to pay for the Zoom, because we don't think that we're going to be able to keep the Zoom for free like we've been doing, because they haven't limited us to 40 minutes. And most of these shows have been running an hour and a half to 2 hours in the past, and nobody said anything to us about it. But we know sooner or later we're going to have to buy the Zoom. And so what we're trying to do is not have it come out of our pocket necessarily. We're not trying to make, bucks off of this thing or become millionaires ourselves. We're just trying to cover the cost of doing these things. So that's why the money. And also we want to make sure that the manufacturers are committed and actually show up, and hopefully will keep their time within their time limit, because I had one modeler comment to me the other day, well, everybody just needs to submit you a video and not just do it personally. And we just don't want to do that if we don't have to. We'd rather for you to talk and people to hear from you, see you, and relate directly to you, the vendor that's selling the product, and understand who you are as a modeler and so forth. And I think that's important, and I think it's a little different than, just a bunch of 25 videos and, send me your email if you want to buy from me kind of thing. I don't want to do that if we don't have to.
It makes it personal.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. That's what this is all about. That's why the Zoom stuff,
Right.
Steve, you've supported me before in the articles that I've been writing now going on 3 years. And, that's one thing to put them in the magazines and all, and try to write about the manufacturers and the vendors. This is just a different way of trying to present what I've been trying to do through the magazines, but do it, on a more personal basis where you can actually get communication, two-way communication between the buyer and seller.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks for the overview on that.
Yes, sir. It's all yours.
So I had prepared just kind of a library of images. I was going to run through some different things on my product lineup. Also, I like to go through kind of what's coming, new products that are in the works or recent new products that have been released. I also will sometimes go through different CAD drawings of how I create these scale models. A little bit of a glimpse into the madness that is my design background, my workspace. But I am open to suggestions. I can start going through some things, and if there's questions that lead us down a different path, that's totally fine for me. This is, I don't know, maybe the third or fourth time I've been involved with one of these Zoom meetings. I don't get a chance to join them all because I'm running the laser. Seems like 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I don't get a lot of time to break free. So I'm open to suggestions. If there aren't any right now, I can start to jump into it, and we can go from there.
Works for me.
I am going. What's that?
Works for me.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see what shows up here. You should be able to see my screen. Just somebody give me a positive shout. And
we can see you.
You can see it.
So I guess I'll just start with my website. And we can walk through kind of how my website is organized. And a lot of people sometimes will ask where to find certain things, and partly because I've just really kind of expanded my product lineup in the last couple of years, that there's a lot of stuff out here. So rail scale models, it's with the hyphens, rail-scale-models.com. this is I just finished up my 4th year in business as Rail Scale Models. And so it's been pretty exciting ride, gotten myself into a lot of new things along the way, which some of them are kind of highlighted on my website. So some of you may remember in December 2019, just this past December, I bought the Railway Design Associates business, and that's the plastic injection molded kits, primarily plastic injection molded. They also have some hydrocal structure kits. And I've slowly started to re-release those kits during this year. I am redoing instructions. In some cases, I'm adding laser cut detail components. I am really kind of just revamping that lineup and re-releasing them as new releases of the historical structure kits. And then the other thing that's cool about the Railway Design Associates components is they are really good for either kit bashing or manipulating into other structure designs. And I'll show you some of the work that I've been doing with that. So that was December of 2019, and I'll hit more into some of those kits as I get into this. The other big acquisition was the Rusty Stumps business. And I guess that might be going on 3 years now. So when I bought the laser cut detail components, such as roofing shingles and brick wall laminates and windows and doors and fencing and stair stringers, and there's just a huge lineup of products that are in many scales: N scale, HO scale, S scale, O scale, and even in some of the larger scales like F and G scale. Those are typically released per request. There's a small lineup of stuff in the larger scales, and then I can do new things based on request. But Walt at Rusty Stumps had a huge lineup, and he offered all the different types of color choices for roofing shingles, several different types of materials for window and door laser cut components. And I've really tried to kind of stick with that and expand upon it even. And then probably 6 or 8 months later, Walt wanted to be done with the Craftsman kit part of the business as well. So he offered to sell the rest of the business to me, and I did that. And that's another area where I'm re-releasing those structure kits as I have time. Again, I'm rewriting the assembly instructions. If there's any tweaks that need to be made to the laser cut components, I'll do that. And then I'll rebrand it and re-release it. Here's an example of one you can see on my website, the wharf at Kelly's Landing. I have several more in the works. Again, I work on these as I have time. Really, the laser cut components business keeps me extremely busy. And then just kits that I have already released keep me busy. And then the other thing that takes up the other big part of my time is the custom work I do. I do a lot of custom design work. I do a lot of custom laser cutting work for folks who are doing their own designs but just don't have a laser cutting facility. I spend a lot of time doing both of those items as well. And I'll show you some details on that, some examples on that as well. But that's kind of the short version of the history of rail scale models. I started out in 2016 and really was just offering laser cutting services. And Jeff at Carolina Craftsman Kits encouraged me to start releasing some of my own kit designs, so I started doing that. And then the Rusty Stumps business was a big acquisition, and that's really where my business started to take off. Expanded that again with the Rusty Stumps Craftsman Kits, and then expanded in December again with the Railway Design Associates. So those are the landmarks for rail scale models. And I'm continuing to get into different things. Working with Walt, I'm fortunate to be able to get some of his time. He's retired, but he still likes to keep himself busy. So he and I have been working on some of these industrial 3D printed kits. And you can see the rooftop HVAC system there on my website. And I'm trying to expand that lineup just because I think it's a nice little offering. And I think that's where I'll start tonight on my website, is what I've done to kind of expand those style of kits. So if you jump into HO scale items and you go under detail parts and assemblies, you'll see kind of the list of what I've got there. And this is kind of my miscellaneous category for different detail parts, laser cut parts, or 3D injection molded parts, or cast parts. So you can see, hey, Bill Davis, you've got some of these war emergency hoppers, don't you? Interior wood siding. He's on mute, so we're not hearing his response. But this is something that one of our friends in Raleigh.
I don't have the war emergency one, but I like the interior thing that you're doing there for O scale.
Yeah, you saw these over in Raleigh.
Yep.
One of our friends in Raleigh suggested this. They're little laser scribed interior inserts that fit the Proto 2000 50-ton war emergency hoppers, and the rivet counters love that kind of detail. They just stick right in there. They're self-adhesive backing, and that's a pretty unique product. And the rivet counters, they like that kind of detail. So I don't know. I just kind of got sidetracked on that one. But
you got that no as well?
So, no, because I haven't been able to figure out what the dimensions are for a common war emergency hopper in O scale. Bill, if you've got one and you want to share it with me, I'll be happy to get the dimensions off of it.
Okay, all right.
But I really don't know what's a common O scale release for that style of hopper.
I know that I don't have one personally, but I know that Atlas makes one of its of the 8 size ones that has the war emergency sides to them. I'll look that information up for you. Yeah, I'll do that.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
So here's the traditional rooftop HVAC. This is the one that Walt released at Rusty Stumps, and now I'm selling it here at Rail Scale Models, and that's per agreement with Walt. He still produces the 3D parts for me and the resin cast parts for me. That thing's been a great seller. It goes together real nice. There's a really detailed online instruction sequence that Ed Traxler put together, and so he's allowed me to link to it, and it's on his website. But this is kind of the traditional one, and one of the things that Walt and I did is we collaborated on a bigger system, just really a larger HVAC system, and you can see all the additional components. It's the same type of assembly. You use styrene tube and different fittings that are 3D printed fittings, and then some cast resin components. So all the components you see in this photo are what come with that kit. And of course, you can reconfigure this however best fits your model. But it's a large system. It could be stretched out a little bit. It could be make it long and narrower rather than more this rectangular shape. But it's a nice rooftop detail that will add a lot of character to a big model. So that one's a little bit more expensive, of course. It's got a lot more components to it, but it's a nice detail.
More modern too.
And then the next one, yeah, a little bit more modern. The next one that I worked on, again, I'm using Walt's fittings and cast details, is the wall-mounted dust cyclone system. And so I know Walt had this dust cyclone, and I know that he's got his fittings. So I said, well, let's put together a small kit that would pull it all together, all the components in one little box, for the styrene tube, for the duct work, the fittings for the 45 and 90 degree angles, and then the cast dust cyclone by itself. So again, this is something that's flexible to configure whatever best fits your wall for your model. It can be extended to be taller. It could go through a window. It could go through a wall. But you can kind of get the idea of what that looks like. And it's a really reasonably priced little kit. But again, it gives you that detail. And the one thing about this particular resin casting, or it might be, I think it's resin, not 3D printed, but it's large enough that it can fit for an S scale model as well. So I've got it listed under the S scale products. You can see the size of it on an HO scale brick wall. So, it could pass for an S scale one as well. And then I've got two more that are in the works that are not listed on my website yet because they're brand new. And Greg Cassidy, who's on the call with us tonight, did me the favor of building these up for me. And I wanted to show the work that he did on that. It's the exhaust venting. So I want to pull that up. And I, again, want to thank Greg for pulling these assemblies together for me. Where are they? I have finished models here somewhere. Of course, now I can't find them. Bear with me. I had them right there. There it is. Sorry about that. So here's the finished product. Can you guys see that on the screen okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually showing two different styles, and this is what I asked Greg to do is build up these two different styles. They'll be sold as two independent kits. And they've just got a little bit of a different style of venting tube on the top, and they're a little different diameter, I guess you will. They're square tubing. But they're, again, coming with 3D printed fittings for 90-degree and 45-degree angles, and then it's styrene tube, square tube, and then the top vents are, again, 3D printed details that came from Walt at Rusty Stumps. And he had not offered, this as a kit like this, but I thought it was a good idea. So I am packaging them up, and thankfully Greg was willing to build these up for me while I was away in California. And he's, I think, sending me this display model back to me in the mail. It's probably sitting in my post office today, my post office box today. But these will be released shortly. And again, you've got some length of tubing, so you can make this taller. You could change the configuration a little bit with the fittings, and then it comes with angle iron that you can configure into kind of wall mount brackets. But you can see the quality of Greg's work putting these together. And then you can, on the right-hand side, again, the larger one is one that I'll probably offer also in S scale because it's a quite a bit larger tube, which could pass an S scale for a smaller diameter tube, if you will. But those are the next ones that'll come on to my website in the kind of industrial mechanical system kits. So I'll show a couple more pictures that Greg sent me, and he sent me some work in process photos, which I'll work into the assembly instructions as well. What I really liked was Greg got creative. So here you can see he's building up the assembly. He's getting his little brackets ready. I'm stealing your thunder, Greg. Here's a work in process. And you can see he used a little piece of strip wood just to kind of place it in position as he glued everything in place. But he and I talked about how we're going to secure it, and he came out with a nice solution where he used some pins. Let's see. So you can see the pins here. He drilled holes in the wall. He drilled holes in the backside of the tubing, and then basically just to hold it secure away from the wall, he went ahead and mounted those on those pins. I think that was a very ingenious solution on his part. And I will, suggest that in the instructions if somebody wants to do that. It's pretty easy enough to just take a safety pin and clip it. I think he used some little brads to do it. But simple enough to do, secure it in place, and don't have to rely on a strip of styrene or something like that. And then he still put in the angle iron mounting fixtures to simulate a steel structure. So those are some new things that I got coming.
So will that have the different lengths of tubing in it, or you have to supply your own tubing?
Oh, it'll include lengths of tubing, and then you cut them to size based on the configuration that you want to put on your building.
Okay.
So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4. Those all come from a length of tubing that in this case Greg cut to size, and then you get a couple of 45-degree fittings, and you get a 90-degree fitting, and then there's one of these I don't know what you call it, but it's a straight fitting just to show a seam. If you had a longer length of tube, you would put that somewhere in the middle. That's this fitting right here, and then you've got the cap exhaust at the top. So it's really intended to be, customizable, configurable based on the modeler's need.
Will this be in other
So you
scales
can see.
besides HO?
At this point, I just have HO. I'd have to talk with Walt to see what he's got in the larger scales, and he, of course, is always willing to work with me if I want to scale something up.
Mhm.
But at this point, I'm just offering these. This is all I have ready to go right now. So.
I think that's great. I haven't seen these kind of things on the market before.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I think they're. Go ahead, Bill.
I was just saying, you mentioned Ed's work, and Ed's, if you've seen Ed's model that's been on like Facebook and stuff like this, has been amazing. What he's done
Yeah.
with these parts.
Yeah, he's a good modeler.
Yep.
And then, I was happy that Greg was able to do that for me, and he's obviously showing his skills too. And then another one of the kits that came from the Rusty Stumps lineup is this kind of dock hoist system, and this is a combination of strip wood and 3D printed parts. And this thing is offered in HO, S, and O scale, and I've got these available and on the shelf right now, with the components supplied by Walt at Rusty Stumps, and then I package them up, and I think I've rebranded them all by now. So that's another little detail kit. I started to offer some of the components that came from the Railway Design Associates business, like the brick hydrocal smokestacks and the hydrocal stone dock. So I've added those in here. They sell occasionally. They're things that usually go in those RDA kits, but I've decided to offer them up as unique items by themselves as well. And then also they're the detail part sprue that comes in almost every RDA kit. This thing is loaded with parts that are very helpful to pretty much any structure with chimneys and exhaust vents and a boiler and a concrete slab dock, little vents, staircases. All that stuff comes on one sprue. And, you got all kinds of cool parts you can play with. That comes in every RDA kit, and I figured I might as well just go ahead and offer it up here by itself.
What scale is that in, Stephen?
It's an HO scale. Yeah, we're looking at the HO scale tab right now.
Okay.
RDA historically, they did do a couple of structures in O scale, and they did one or two in N scale. I've got some of the items from the O scale stuff they did, but I haven't got anything in N scale just yet.
Huh.
There's a debate whether or not the tooling still exists for those plastic injection molded N scale parts. I'm still working with my vendor to see if we can't locate those. The RDA business is an interesting one. It goes back 30 years. Rod Guthrie began that business in 1989, and he made all the tools himself, and he worked with a injection molding company up near his home in Massachusetts. And he was working with the same injection molder for those 30 years. Well, he passed away 10 years ago, so for those 20 years. But there's really not anybody else that really knew the history of the business. His wife and his two kids took over the business 10 years ago and did their best to continue the business. And, in recent years, they decided it was time to sell the business. But, trying to dig through 20 years of history of paperwork and tools and projects that are literally in the workshop of the Guthrie family, and I got to go there and see it. I mean, years and years of work. Sometimes difficult to find stuff from years past. So I've been sorting through that stuff, and I've been discovering new things and trying to work with the injection molding company to see if there's a few tools that we don't know about lying around in his shop somewhere. So that's kind of that tab of the details, parts and assemblies. I guess since we're talking about RDA, let's go ahead and jump into their tab. I have it under injection molded structure kits. And the ones that are listed here are the ones that I've worked through in the last 6 or 8 months to get released. And these have been great selling kits over the years, and the tooling is still in good shape. So the injection molded sprues are coming through in fine shape. But you can see these have been around for a long time. Easton Mill and Middleton Mills. These have been very popular kits over the years. Freeman Manufacturing, Fisherman's Co-op and Cannery. The stone roundhouse was quite a bit of a bigger project for me because I really wanted to do some redesign on this one. And I completely redesigned the interior floor and roof, and I've made them laser cut components. Which before, basically you got some sheets of styrene and a note that said, make it look like this. Well, I've changed all that, and I've done some detailed engineering drawings, and I've done detailed laser cut components that form both the floor, the roof, and all the windows and doors on this structure are now laser cut. I also include detailed engineering drawing that shows how to configure the layout of the walls so that you fit it on the base properly. And I have completely rewritten the assembly instructions for this structure, which they needed some work, and I've done that. And it's a big kit. It's the biggest box that I offer in a kit form, and it's got a lot of stuff in it, and it's heavy because it's it's those injection molded wall pieces, and they're kind of modular. So each one of these little sections is a wall, and then some of them you put extensions on them to make them taller. And then you've got the front walls with the arch bay openings, and you've got some freight door castings. And the cool thing about this structure is the configuration around the perimeter of the structure. It's customizable to put windows or doors wherever you want. Obviously, except for the front, where you have your 3 arch bay doors. But the rest of the walls are all configurable to whatever sequence you like. So it's a nice structure.
Is it
It's got some
expandable?
interior framing. What's that?
Can you add extra bays to it?
Yes, so I actually have another kit that's not shown on the website yet. It's 4006A, and it is a bay by bay expansion kit. So yes, it's you would just drop a bay down in the middle of the structure as it is now, and you can make it 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You just buy however many expansion bays you wish, and the floor and the roof components are designed to just drop right in the middle somewhere and shift over, and you've got an expanded roundhouse. So it's a fun little structure. But that was a lot of work. I spent a lot of time on that, and I've sold a few. One person that kind of was the driver for me to get this thing ready bought 5 of them because I wanted to make a big, huge roundhouse. So that was a nice sale to put my efforts into some work. But here you can see some of the other ones that are out there. And again, I usually release these based on demand, right? If somebody calls up and says, hey, I haven't seen you release this one yet, can you get this one out there? That'll be kind of the next one I work on. One new one that I created was a background kit. So, a lot of these walls are used in different kits. They're modular. This is 4 wall sections of these kind of brick Easton walls. They're same as the Easton Mill walls. And I made a background kit, and I give you a laser cut background and a laser cut roof. And then the rest of it is just the traditional RDA components. And you can change the configuration of where the docks go and where the windows go with those 4 sections. You can make either a flat roof or a peaked roof. So that's included in the instructions. And of course, if you wanted to make an even bigger structure, you could buy 2 of them and just make it even lengthier. And then, of course, you can buy yourself a dust cyclone system and stick it on the wall, and here's your furniture company with a dust cyclone. I actually need to add that to my website here. It's kind of, add the optional dust cyclone system. But that's a brand new release. That was a brand new design based on, some of the other similar designs, but it was based on a request of, hey, can we make a background kit out of this? And so there it is. I've got several others of these in the works, and I've got a request for J&J tooling. I've got a request for there's another engine house that's a single rail that runs through it with doors on the front and the back. That one gets good reviews. But then I can share with you another one that I've been working on. Here it is down here. I call it Guthrie Mills. And this is a design in the works. And this is one that's a tribute to the Guthrie family. And this is an example of kind of what my vision was when I bought the company, is I wanted to start looking at combining the injection molded structure components together with some laser cut components. So if you can kind of get a glimpse into the madness of my design work, my CAD design work, if you look at rear view, left side, front view, and right side, those wall components are the injection molded wall components that are similar to, I think it's Freeman Manufacturing. They're the stone wall components. And then you can see this little lean-to that I've added. And the idea of this lean-to, it'll be a laser cut board and batten structure with laser cut windows and doors on it. And so it'll be like an addition, a single story addition. And then the other thing you'll notice is this is intended to be along a waterway. And I intend to put a water wheel in here with a flue that goes into that water wheel. I'll put a dam in place so you can see the kind of the water level. And the basement will essentially be all a laser cut structure as well. And then I'll also add a couple of silos. The idea is this is some kind of a rolling mill or some kind of a mill with some silos, and I'll add some of the styrene tubing and fittings where you would have some connection from the building out to the silos, and then a rail track. You can see the top view down here at the bottom. So the main structure, the lean-to, a laser cut dock, the waterway on the bottom, and the silos. So this would be a pretty large kind of diorama. You know, imagine South River type of a diorama. That was kind of what I was going for. That kind of imaginative structure. And of course, the silos could be placed in different locations. But that's something that's on the design drawing board. And really, the only thing that's held me up from making progress on this is all the other stuff I got going on. It's really ready to be laser cut, and I've got somebody that's willing to build up the diorama for me, and we'll go from there.
Steve,
What do y'all think about this thing? Go ahead, Jim.
You talk about wanting to merge the injection molded and the precision cut. Could you talk about why? I mean, what are you thinking of? Why the marriage of those two processes?
So the injection molded components, I'm really kind of limited to what I have. I really don't have the interest in going down the path of designing new tools and then having to work with a tool maker to make new tools for new wall designs and stuff like that. So I'm not planning to go down that path. But if I want to make some new, interesting structure kits to release to the market, my idea is that I need to enhance these with laser cut components, because that's where I have got the design capability, I've got the laser cutter capability, I've got all the materials and components that I need. It's much quicker, much easier, and quite frankly, less expensive for me to pursue that path, that avenue, than trying to get new tooling made. And then also part of it is, you know, if you think about modelers, model railroaders, you've got a large population of folks that like to build plastic injection molded structures. And you've got another large population of folks that like to build wood craftsman kit structures. You will certainly have some overlap with folks that are perfectly happy and comfortable to build either one. But I kind of like the idea of challenging some of the modelers that may not be comfortable with one or the other. And you buy a kit like this and you get a little bit of both.
I think it makes all the sense in the world. I really do. I admire you for coming up with it. I've never heard anybody talk about it from that standpoint before. It makes all the sense in the world. Yeah, and I mean, I just, the RDA components have such a lot of character to them, and there's so much opportunity to expand them with some new ideas and make a brand new structure kit with similar components, and then just add a few things to it. And what you're really doing, you're really kit bashing them for the modeler. That's right. That's right.
So this is Guthrie Mills, and one of these days I'll be able to get this one back on front and center and get some more work done on it. So another thing that you probably can't see, I'll zoom in over here. But one thing that a product that I've been working on is laser cut expanded metal platforms. You can certainly find that kind of a component in a plastic injection molded part, or maybe even a brass. But I have a laser, so I'm going to use my laser. And I've designed, as part of this kit, some kind of wall mounted platforms. You know, you'll walk outside a door on a platform that overlooks the waterway. It's just a maintenance access. I'm going to have a ladder going up the side of the wall, up onto the roof, because that's where we're going to have a dust cyclone up on the roof. So I came up with these expanded metal laser cut details, and I've cut some of these out, and they are beautiful. They look really cool. And I make it a double layer, so we put a little bit of rigidity into it. So that's what this top piece is kind of intended to be, a framing that goes on the bottom side. And then I've got some angle brackets that will fit on there, and you attach to the side of the wall. And I've also got some railings that we'll put around the perimeter of it. And it's a nice little wall-mounted platform. And so I'll also offer these platforms as part of like my laser cut details lineup. So you could buy a variety of different size platforms on a sheet with some angle brackets, and you can throw them on your building however you like. So that's kind of what I got in the works with that. And I'm not sure there's a lot of people that have expanded metal platforms from the laser cut business. Don't tell anybody. The other thing that I was working with is, what's the other metal? It's what's called tread plate or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's rather than being cut out, it's got like those raised details on a stainless steel plate. Well, I've got a pattern that I created where I can laser etch that into some laser board, and it really does look good as tread plate. So that's another thing that I'll eventually offer up as a laser cut detail for people to use on a variety of ways.
Steve, should that overhang be on a small angle as opposed to perfectly flat? I'm thinking about
Which one are you talking about, Jack?
Where your angles look like they're 90 degrees to the wall.
Yeah.
Should it have a slight angle for drainage?
Well, it's expanded metal, Jack, so it's all open.
Okay.
So these are walkways. These are
Okay, so it's not a roof overhang.
maintenance walkways.
I got it.
No, those are intended to be walkways
Okay.
for maintenance access with the expanded metal platform, and then
Okay.
there'll be a railing around the perimeter of it.
Okay, I got it. Sorry, I was thinking roof as opposed to walkway.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
So that's a sneak peek into Guthrie Mills, since we were talking about Railway Design Associates. I guess I'll pivot off of Railway Design Associates onto something else, unless somebody has questions about that.
Well, you've shown us all the HO scale stuff in that. What about other scales?
I'm glad you asked. I think that was Bill, right?
That was Bill.
All right, Bill, let's go to N scale.
Oh, great. Thank you.
You'd be happy about that.
Oh, I'm excited.
Well, I want to
You mean normal scale?
normal scale.
No, that's
right.
nothing
I don't know
scale.
if do we have any N scalers on the call?
Just me.
All right. Well, I have an N scale customer who I'll say is just quite demanding, and in a good way, right? Not in a bad way. Just always challenging me to come up with stuff for him to build. So he and I agreed that we were going to collaborate on a wharf scene, because everybody loves waterfront scenes.
Yep.
And I don't think that N scalers get very many waterfront scenes. So what you're looking at, and this is really, really early in sneak preview, we've been, my buddy Frank and I have been going back and forth on some concepts as to what would make for a good N scale waterfront scene. And what you're looking at is part one of 5. I've got this thing broken out into 5 pieces. So basically it would be like 5 N scale super kits. And each of those 5 sections could be completely standalone, or they can be pieced together into this overall diorama scene that I've started to sketch up. Or you could buy and put together some different combination of those 5, like 1 and 2 go together, 1, 2, and 3 go together, 2 and 3 go together, 2 and 4 go together. Number 5 can be completely standalone. And I know I'm not showing you the picture of all 5 yet, but bear with me, and maybe in 6 months I'll have a better picture. But I mean, I have a picture, I just don't have it on my computer right here. So this is part 1, and I'm calling it the lower docks because we're also talking about multi-tiered docks. And this first section is what I call the lower docks because they're down a ramp or down a ladder, and it's about maybe 4 feet from the water's surface. And on this lower docks, I've got a couple of structures. This first one is a multi-building structure with kind of a bridge that goes between 2, and it'll be a kind of like a cafe with a covered staircase going up to the 2nd floor. There'll be a little kitchen wing, and I know I don't have all the details in here. And then there'll be a bait and tackle shop over here on the other side of the dock with a kind of a bridge structure that goes between the 2. And then the thing I really wanted to do was this marine service and repair shop, and one that's actually sitting down in the water. So you can see the front, kind of the front facade of this with 2 bays. So, and this is like the water level down here, this blue line. So your boats could pull into there, and then they'd actually be a lift hoist mechanism that could pull it up in the air to the dock level for whatever work might need to be done. I want to put in here some hoists from the 2nd floor because you actually have an opening on the floor from 2nd floor to 1st floor where you could lift an engine out of the boat and bring it all the way up to the 2nd floor. And then on the 2nd floor, you have access to a freight dock. So you've got lower docks and upper dock. You can see it in this side view here. And you can see it in the plan view, lower docks and upper dock. And then on the upper dock, the rest of that structure becomes a provisions shop, if you will. So imagine that nice big structure, very open on the front with some lift hoists, some really kind of an open environment. You can see inside. I'm working with Walt. We're going to try to do some N scale 3D printed workbenches and stuff like that would go inside of here. And I know you don't see it all in here, but I've got all of the deck work designed out for the pillars that go into the water, different ladder locations, all the floor joists and stuff that are going here. I've got it all worked out in the CAD design. So this is a fun project.
I'm looking forward to this. Please,
so,
now.
My idea is that I may eventually release this in HO scale also. This is a big project though. And for the HO scale, I'm a little worried about how big it would get. But we'll see how that goes. For the N scaler, if you could imagine an N scaler that had a shelf layout or a layout with a peninsula, imagine the end of that peninsula as a waterfront scene. My intention with this 5-section wharf at Mud Creek diorama, if you will, is that you could populate the entire corner of the end of a peninsula with this scene, and it would be complete, everything you need.
It will have room for trains too, won't it?
Yeah, so, and
Okay.
I know you can't see it in here, but so, and I wish I had the bigger picture, but right along the edge of this lower dock, that's where the upper dock of section 2 will reside. And along that section, there's a rail spur.
Fantastic.
Okay, so and so that upper section dock will continue kind of to the left, makes a little bit of a left-hand turn. So you kind of got a big U shape here, and then you could have boats in here, fishing boats in here, and I'll have some hoists coming up onto the dock. And then on the other side of the rail spur is a cannery. So you unload the boats, you throw it onto a push cart, you bring that fish up into the cannery. You've got some docks to load your freight cars. And then next to it is an ice house. It's going to be a brick ice house, which is sitting right about here. And then the other thing I've got in the scene is a team track. So right parallel to that spur is another spur for a team track that would serve this little community.
Okay.
So yeah, the idea is that it's a working railroad port.
If I could suggest putting a warehouse there, because not everything that's dropped off on the team track is going to have a ship immediately. So the warehouse would be really beneficial.
Good idea. I actually have, so imagine the cannery, and then there's a road down the middle, and then on the other side, there's structures that are also part of, that's part 4. And that I have an open spot where I don't know what I'm going to put there. So maybe a warehouse will go there across the street from the
Okay.
team track.
I'm looking forward to
Good
this.
idea.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. It's funny because I got a call from somebody, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, who wants to model Beaufort, North Carolina in N scale. And he's like, I want to do a waterfront scene. And I'm like, your timing is perfect. I'm working on a waterfront scene in N scale. It may not be exactly like Beaufort, North Carolina, but conceptually it might work. So, all right. So Bill, you asked for other scales. So there's some N scale stuff. Do you want to see some more N scale stuff? I know you do.
I do.
All right, let's jump down to, and some of you have seen this. This is another N scale structure that my buddy Frank asked me
That's
to
cool.
put together a model. This is a structure that exists on Long Island, New York. It's an old rolling mill, and it's got that little detached garage, and it's just got so much character. I was really excited to put this together for him, and he did the build. So that was our deal. I'll do the design, you do the build, and then he gave to me this pilot model so I can put it on display. But it's cool. It's a little board and batten structure. I believe they're Tichy windows. Try to keep it simple. I provide a little piece of tubing for the windmill. The windmill blades are little 2-piece laser board assemblies with the fabric. So you actually get the fabric that you put in there. And then you get the end cap as well as a little laser cut detail. The ladders will come with it. You get a little smokestack. Everything you see, except the scenery. I'm going to add a couple of fence sections of fence in there too, so you can put a fence in there. The little hoist for the second floor mechanism will be in there, and then some detail castings like the little sacks of whatever is being made in the rolling mill. And I do intend to offer this in HO scale, in S scale, and in O scale. There you go, Bill.
There you go. Yep.
So that's a fun little structure. Oh, well, I just jumped to a brand new one. So this one it doesn't have the roof on it yet. And I have another friend here in the Asheville area another guy who challenges me on new structure designs. And this is a flat. This is a background flat. The one you're seeing is an HO scale. But he drew up this concept for me, 2 stories of brick and 1 story of clapboard. And the clapboard, you can't really see it super well in this photo, is actually got an overhang of about 3 feet. So you can see some details in there. I'll zoom in with some brackets and also, what do we call that? Dental work detail along the underside of the overhang.
Yeah, dental work.
You can see all the brick detail, the corner details, the details over the windows with the keystone, the sills. He painted his brick up to look like there was some maintenance done. The front entrance is actually set back by about 24 scale inches with a double door opening, some storefront windows. And then I kind of got creative. Rather than putting a brick header or a steel header, I actually put a wood timber header over the windows and over the door opening. I thought that was kind of an interesting change. And so we'll see how it works. I guess it looks okay in this picture.
Yeah.
You know, and then the clapboard section is pretty straightforward. These are all simply titchy windows and doors. I didn't make it overly complicated. And I also did include the sidewalk. And I've been practicing with some of my laser distressing on the sidewalks. So you can see some cracks and some gouges and whatnot. And the curb is on there. It looks like he put a detailed interior in there. You can see through the windows. So that's brand new. I don't even have this in my hands yet. This is just a photo I received yesterday from my buddy here in Asheville who's building this up for me. All right.
What kind of roof do you know?
I think I gave him shingles. I think I gave him a shingle roof.
Okay, that'd be cool.
If I remember right, I think it was just standard 3-tab shingles. Let's see, where should we go to next? Any requests?
Oh, scale.
Guys?
I'm
All
sorry,
right,
I couldn't
scale
resist.
it is. Let's.
Thank you. Finally.
All right, I'm going to show you. Do I have Darden in O scale? I sure do. All right, we'll jump to some CAD work. Darden Mill in O scale. Now, many of you will know that this is a Carolina Craftsman Kits structure kit. But as part of my service offering, I do structure design and laser cutting. And I sometimes work together with Jeff at Carolina Craftsman Kits. So the Darden Mill structure, both in HO scale and O scale, the flats, the background flats, are ones that I did. And let's see, do I have the isometric? Yep, I sure do. So we'll jump into the isometric. If you've not seen this structure kit, it sits about maybe 2.5 inches deep. And this structure actually exists up in Elkins, West Virginia. And what Jeff and I decided to do was offer it as 2 different flats, the front side and the back side, and then let modelers do whatever they want with it. So what we're seeing here is the back side, and this is in reality the side that sits on the rail spur. And the rail spur is actually up on the 2nd level of the building, because you'll see the front side is actually 3 levels. So there's a big elevation change from the front to the rear, and the railroad is sitting up higher on the rear. But this is a structure that's got lots of different materials. It's got vertical, we did a board-on-board assembly in O scale, and then we've got corrugated panels in the center section and clapboard siding on the right-hand side section. And if I remember right, that's actually the way the structure looks. I might be mistaken, but it did have a variety of different materials. And then a simple 3-section roof with, we probably just put tar paper on there. But this is an illustration that I provided to Jeff that he could throw in the kit on how the assembly goes together. And then also the details for the laser cut freight door. Some details on how the corners go together. If you can't tell, I really enjoy doing CAD work. And then the other side, it's the street side in reality, but if a modeler wanted to put this on a spur with a rail spur, that'd be just fine. It's 3 stories high instead of 2 stories high. And again, you've got some clapboard siding and some corrugated siding and some interesting roof lines. This one actually has a section that sets back, so it's kind of like an L shape or an S shape section in the clapboard. And there's kind of the front facade of it. So, hey, Bill, have you built this one up yet, no scale?
No, but Charlie did.
Yep, Charlie did. I think he built up the first one.
Mhm. No, but I got one of the kits by Jeff to build that's really huge. This isn't it, but one of the other ones he has.
Was it Elkins?
No, I wish. No, it was one from way back when. He no longer manufactures it.
Well, he actually just sold off his O-scale business.
Yeah, I know. I can't remember who he sold it to now, off the top of my head now, but anyway.
It's another one of my customers. Paul Reeves down in South Carolina. So he and I will be working together to get him some laser cut stock so he can release his new O-scale kits. So here's another one that I did for Jeff, and this is Elkins, and this is the O-scale version. Elkins is really an enormous structure, and we really did as much as we could to keep it true to scale. And if you haven't seen this structure in real life, go ahead and Google it. It's very cool. It's a brick structure, which of course means lots of laser time. And the way I designed it is I just started to break it up into pieces. It's got one story on the left-hand side and 2 stories on the right-hand side. And it's got a really interesting roof line. And so you can kind of see how I break it all down into its pieces and lay the brick in. And these are all laser cut windows and doors, which are multi-level or multi-layer to give you the 3-dimensional effect. All pre-cut laser cut acetate glazing. All the details over the freight doors. But you can kind of see the madness behind my CAD work. And then ultimately what I do is I drop all those different components into, I don't know, call it my folder system, but this is just categorized by type of material. So 1/16 inch basswood, illustration board, chipboard, illustration board with sticky tape on the back, laser board for all the windows and doors, laser board for the roof awning supports, MDF for the base and the sidewalk. So you can kind of see how I take all the components from a design, categorize them by material, and then I can start laser cutting them, and I build my bill of materials that way.
It's a very impressive
Jack,
structure.
Jack, this is how your stuff gets done too. If he's still there, I don't know if he's still there. Jack from Ipswich Hobbies, great supplier of N-scale, HO scale, and O-scale, soon to be O-scale structure kits.
I am here. Steve does a great job for me.
Kicking and screaming in O-scale.
Only because Jim is such a persuasion addict.
Let's see. What else do I have here? Oh, I have some pictures of Union Bridge. So we lost Jim Koshin at Medford Trains a couple months ago, and he was another one of my customers, and I want to make sure that everybody can appreciate the quality of model builder that he was. He pushed me for a long time to get Union Bridge done, and it is quite an impressive structure. But, and you know, the design work that you just saw is the same kind of design work I went through for this. But the precision by which Jim Koshin put these things together was just fantastic, unbelievable precision. You cannot see gaps. You cannot see any kind of flaws in his work. I mean, the roof, just the roof alone, you know, this is the Plastruct Spanish tile roofing. There are seams in here. There are vertical seams. You cannot see them. The sheets are not large enough to cover this entire roof. So there are seams in there. And his work was really fantastic.
What scale is this?
We worked on Union Bridge together. This one is HO scale, Bill.
Okay.
It's a really, really large structure.
Yeah.
we did each of the three little building or two big buildings and one little building independently, and then he put it all together with the large scene. But it included the foundation, laser etched foundation, stone foundation, all the laser etched brick, all the laser etched raised detail. You can see the detail in the windows. Again, kind of multi-layer. The chimneys are laser etched assemblies. Again, layered for 3D effect. All the dental work is included on this structure. This was a real monster of a project, but I was really happy that we got to get this done together. And the model that he built is on display. And Greg Cassidy, if you're still on, you can help me with which museum it is up in Maryland. I think it's the Western Maryland Railway Museum, somewhere up in the Baltimore area. And he donated his diorama that he built for Union Bridge to the museum.
We can hear Greg. I can see that he's talking, but for some reason
Must be on mute.
No, he's off mute. I just can't hear. I can see him talking, but it's weird.
Greg, you can text it to us in the notes, and we'll know which museum it is. But I just want to make sure that we all appreciate the quality of Jim's work. And I like to show this picture because it's a tribute to what a fantastic modeler he was.
Beautiful work. Very impressive. Extremely clean.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these things are small, right? I mean, Bill, this HO scale stuff is so tiny.
Yeah, I know. CAFO.
CAFO. All right, what else should I show? I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit.
Stephen, I really appreciate you taking the time to show his work, because that's, in my opinion, modelers like that, when they're gone, their techniques, we lose their techniques, we lose their knowledge base, and it's such a crying shame for the hobby that you can't seem to get more modelers coming along to learn from them before they are taken from us.
Yeah.
Hey, Steve, you were designing when you were still living down here a building that we both liked in South Carolina. And I don't know if you ever finished that or progressed with that or whatever.
Which one was that? Was that Spartanburg Station?
No. It was a store building in a little town that's up in the mountains, starts with a C.
Oh.
You had a couple of buildings in that same town that you also were thinking about doing?
Yeah, and it's in my list of things to do. Storefronts.
Right.
No, that's Jeff's stuff. Chesney.
That's it. I couldn't think of it. Yeah, it's a great store. It's really strange. Really strange the way it was put together.
Yeah, I just haven't finished it, Bill. I've got it. There's the CAD work, and it's got some cool brickwork. I remember now. It has some cool brickwork.
Yeah, and odd arrangement with the doors and the windows, and it's just really strange. Yeah.
Let's see. Let's look at some pictures. Here it is. Here. Yeah. This might be the other one. So we had two of them. Right.
There were two or three of them we had picked out.
Yeah. So there's that one. That's Chesney Hardware and Supply.
Right.
And then there was 208 West.
There it is. There it is.
So yeah, I've still got this one in the works, Bill. I have an intention to have these kind of a series of storefronts.
Right.
And these are part of them.
Not to hijack not to hijack here a second, Steve, but notice how the side door thing to the second floor is part of the thing. There's no brick column between them. It's just really
a wood column between them.
Yep. It's very strange design. Great building.
Yeah, my intention is to finish these, Bill. I have so many things on my list to do.
Do you need a weekly email?
No. And the design that you're seeing here in the Excel, in the AutoCAD, this is an O scale design. So you know that that Bill and I were collaborating on this because it was intended to be for him as the first one.
Yes, still is.
So yeah, I haven't forgotten about it. It's just it's on the back burner like many other things.
I understand. I have a few of those out here too.
So another model that I did for Jim Koshin at Medford Trains was the Emery Grove Tower. And this is another brick structure, but a pretty simple brick structure. And he had really, was looking forward to get this model out on the market. And we did a bunch of them, and he sold a bunch of them. And a simple little brick tower, but with lots of character. Big windows on the front, some smaller windows on the side. We did a concrete staircase with the metal railing, all laser cut stuff. You can see the details of the windows and doors, laser cut. A little vent in the concrete foundation that we put in there. Lots of details. And he did offer this up as a structure kit. So we looked at Elkins, we looked at Darden, we looked at Bill's storefronts. I have a couple other things open here. Yeah, we looked at the two Guthrie Mills and the wharf. Hey, Jim, I have no idea what you had in mind for time, so I'm just kind of wandering around here.
I understand.
And of course, if there's questions or anything, just give me a shout.
Stephen, let me ask you a question. Your custom modeling business that you talked about early on, what does a modeler have to give you in order to start that process?
I can pretty much work with anything. I can work with photos. I can work with architectural design drawings. I can work with sketches with some rough dimensions. I can work with pretty much anything. If I get photos, then I start to work it into some rough idea on dimensions. I can count clapboards. I can count bricks. I can get some rough ideas on dimensions that way.
Thinking for myself, Jim, what I usually provide Steve are detailed photographs and field measurements. And Steve,
yeah, I mean, if it's more important to accurately reflect the prototype, then dimensions and details are great. If somebody's looking for something that kind of looks like this, then I can do that too, and we can start to go back and forth on. Can you make the windows a little bigger, a little smaller? Can you stretch the building a little longer, a little taller, whatever the case needs to be. And we're trying to find that comfortable balance of the right size for what they're looking to model, and does it look right?
Right. Right.
I know when Stephen and I have worked together, I know I gave him pictures of a cab and said, can we make something that looks like this? This is what the dimensions we have that we need so it will fit. And frankly, Stephen has always basically kicked ass because he's just that good.
Yep.
I mean, I literally will just give him a picture, some base dimensions, and Steve, you can come up with anything. Like really, I mean, you always have blown me away. I mean, the most recent one he did for me was the cab for the little vest pocket consolidation conversion kit, and that cab is beautiful. It really is. It's a work of art.
Yeah, those were fun. Those were fun to do, Dylan. They were certainly challenging because it's a little bit out of my normal stuff, but they were fun. If you guys want to see custom work, go ahead, Bill.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll see it in a minute.
How's that for custom? That is Sears and Roebuck in Chicago, Illinois.
Huge.
This structure is 75 inches long in HO scale. It is currently just shy of 11 inches tall. It has 2 levels of rail docks, lower level, upper level. The upper level is on a platform. The lower level is underneath it. If anybody's familiar with the structure, it's enormous. What isn't shown on here yet, but will be included over here on the right-hand side, is a tower that is twice the height of what you see here. that will be just a flat on the backdrop. The rest of the structure is roughly 6 inches off the wall, so there'll be some walls on the sides. This is all brick. There are some details of three-dimensional details with the brick. You can see my notes. They're set back, and then the brick is actually set back a full course of bricks. And then there's windows that are set back within that wall. So I'm working on some notes. You can see I'm just starting to piece this together. But this is a model railroader down here south of Asheville. Bill, you probably know who he is. And he's building an enormous B&O, B&O or C&O. Uh-oh, I better not get that wrong. I think it might be C&O. And in Chicago, and he's got really big industrial buildings, and I'm helping him with some structures, and this is the one I'm working on right now. And I'm not sure if he wants me to build it or not. I hope not. I got enough to do, but you can see some details on the freight doors and the windows that I'm starting to piece together, and the windows that are upper level windows. But this is something I just started working on while I was in California for the last 2 weeks. Because when I'm sitting in the hotel at night, this is the kind of stuff I get to do. So Jim, back to your question, I do a lot of custom work. I can work from pretty much anything. And, you know, when I get a request for a one-off, hey, can you do this one structure? Typically my next question will be, well, can I turn it into a kit? Because then I can give you a different price. If it's just a one-off and no, don't turn it into a kit, well, you're gonna have to pay for my time a little bit more. If I can turn it into a kit, then I can spread that cost over, you know, over kit sales. So that's kind of how I work.
Okay.
I wish I could find, let's see if I can find, no, I don't think I have that one in here. I hope I do. CCK.
Are you soliciting?
Yeah, here it is.
Stephen, are you soliciting that kind of work? Or are you kind of snowed under right now, or?
I have an enormous backlog of work right now. So I'm really kind of telling people right now that I can't take anything new that isn't going to wait for a year or two.
Okay.
I have an enormous backlog, and I feel bad because people are waiting. There are people on the call here on tonight that are waiting. I won't say any names, but
no, they've taken your name already. They've pretty well spread the word about you.
Yep.
Yeah, it's so hard to keep up with everything. But you know, I like to do the custom stuff. I just gotta balance my time a little bit. You know, I've got all these Rusty Stumps kits that I need to release. I've got these RDA kits I need to release. I've got customers that are kit producers that are my top priority. People like Jack and Jeff and Dylan, but he's gone to all 3D printed stuff, so I can't really blame him on that. So he doesn't have a demand for my time these days.
Well, I'm keeping the Vest Pocket 280s. Those are going to stay laser cut, and it's just a matter of where do I find the application for another one. You know, because I've got so many other projects going right now myself. I know how you feel. It's like, oh crap, there's not enough time in the day.
Yeah, and then Paul Reeves, who just bought Jeff's O-Scale business, he's going to want to come out with some new stuff, and I've done some work for him already in O-Scale. So I'll show you another O-Scale one, Bill, and this is one
Stephen, do you have contact for him?
For Paul Reeves?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can send you. I'll shoot you a message with it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, he should definitely have an opportunity to kind of talk about his plans for the future.
That's what I was going to try to profile him in one of my articles, and then ask him to be on the Zoom too, if I can get in touch with him.
Great idea. This is the structure that I did for him a couple of years ago. This is in Lancaster, South Carolina, I believe. It's a limestone structure, and it's very cool structure, right? And we did this in O-Scale, so it's pretty good size, but you can see the CAD work. So it's etched limestone we did it on MDF with some laser cut sections along the top, laser cut windows, three-dimensional detail on the facade. This was a really fun project. He's built this up, and he did a really nice job on the painting because he wanted to match this kind of pinkish color. So he really worked on matching the coloration. He has an image of this big sign, but everything else is laser cut. And I think he found something for these little details on the corners here.
That's a train
But
station?
this was, it was a freight station.
Wow.
Yeah, you can see the rails coming across the road. It was a freight
Mhm.
house.
Wow.
Really
That
fun
company is still in business
project.
too.
Are they?
Yeah, Lancaster and Chester is.
Wow.
It's a nice building.
You know,
Yeah.
it's a very cool building. In O scale, I mean, it's a big structure. In O scale, it's 14 inches long, so it's not too bad. But he hasn't released it as a kit yet. He and I have been going back and forth, and he's got this built up. It's just a matter of, I think, him finding the time to write instructions and get it ready to go. But so that's Paul Reeves at Kershaw Model Works or something like that. Kershaw Scale Models. I'll send you the info, Jim.
Okay, thank you.
So there's another O scale one for you, Bill. Oh, and I have another O scale one. So we talked about custom stuff. So there's a guy I know up in Massachusetts who does custom structure building. And he asked me to do this big O scale bridge. And you can kind of get a feel for kind of what it looks like. It's one of these big we did a combination of kind of an arch support and these other vertical and angular columns. We did all this in plywood, so it would be nice and rigid. But overall, start to finish, this bridge is 48 inches long and a lot of plywood in here. 16th and 8th inch plywood, a solid floor. It has a pedestrian walkway along the side. I think I have photos of the finished thing. Let me see if I can find that. I wonder if I have. Yeah, so this is just, so that's some examples. That's kind of how we got the inspiration of the arch. And then there's the inspiration for the walkway. And we combine those two ideas together.
Oh, wow.
And that was in the O scale, but I only made the one. I only ever did the one. I don't have the finished build-up model pictures here. But he did that for a customer of his, and he put it on that guy's layout. So
Pedestrian
that was a
bridge?
big project. What's that?
Pedestrian bridge? Car bridge?
So
or-
it was a vehicle bridge with a pedestrian walkway along one side.
Oh, okay. Jeez.
So you can kind of see kind of the front, face. There's the vehicle, and then there's the pedestrian bridge over here. So we did all these little support things. Did all of the roof trusses that ran down the length of the bridge. That was a fun project.
Very cool.
All of that, and he put plastic roof shingles on it. I couldn't believe it. Now there's a water wheel that I did. I did a water wheel for him too.
In O scale?
Detailed assembly water wheel. That was O scale, yep.
Oh, we need to talk.
So yeah, he had an O scale customer that he was building a lot of structures for. Let's see. We looked at Medford.
A while
looked
back,
at
you had a
Elkhorn.
page with a whole bunch of the of your models in like an HO scale, and there's but the third one over in the top row was a station that you built.
Yeah, so Spartanburg Station,
Yes,
Spartanburg, South Carolina.
yes, that's an
So these
awesome
guys,
model. That's it there. Yeah, this one right.
Yep.
Why you can't see my finger. Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah, so the guys down in Spartanburg, the Hub City Railroad Museum resides in this old Spartanburg depot. And they contacted me at one of the train shows over here in Western North Carolina. And they asked if I saw them at the SCR convention.
Right, because you had that when you were here in Raleigh.
Yeah. Yeah, so I had done that. They had met me. I met them at the SER convention, and they did all the legwork for me. They did all the dimensions of the building, and they sent me photos, and then I started doing the design work. And the cool thing is just the interesting roof detail.
Mhm.
It's very interesting. You know, I stared at the pictures of this thing for a long time before I came up with a way of how I was going to do that roof, and it really goes together easily. These end caps are actual assemblies all to themselves, one on each side, that just glues onto the side of the laser cut wall, and then the rest of the roof is just chipboard that folds over onto the roof. But once I figured out those end caps, the rest of it was pretty straightforward. It is laser etched stone foundation, obviously laser etched brick. All the windows and doors are laser etched assemblies. This kit actually is on the shelf right now. I mean, it's an expensive kit. I'm not going to argue with you. It's an expensive kit, but it's a big kit. It's probably about 14 inches in length. It does come on a concrete scribed base, tab and slot for the walls into the base. As you can see, the interesting roof detail. The chimneys are laser etched assemblies with, again, the laser board to make the three-dimensional step effect.
I have to tell you guys, I've seen that model in person, and that is an absolutely incredible model that Steve built.
I actually got to build that one myself. That was
Yeah,
when I
and-
had time to build things.
Yep. But it's an amazing piece of workmanship, Steve. You've really done a great, incredible job on it.
I appreciate that. So yeah, I mean, I could just run through, you know, when we look at the HO scale kits that I have on the market, some of these have been out there since, you know, 3 or 4 years. Some of the ones I did early on. Shorty's Service Station was the very first kit that I designed and myself. It came from a photo that I found on shortbee.com. And I just saw that building, that structure, and I was like, this makes for a great structure, scale structure kit. It's got clapboard, and it's got corrugated siding, and it's got laser cut freight doors. It's got the Tichy fuel pump assemblies. And when you look at this model compared to the prototype structure, you know, it's a pretty dead on match. And I was really happy with the way this thing came out.
That's the one
Sold
that
a
I
lot of
have
these.
that will actually end up on my layout whenever I get around to building
Nice.
the layout.
Hi, Midnight. Yeah, I
You know,
actually
you look
built
at the
that one
photos, you can,
too.
yeah, that's right, Bill. I remember you built this one too.
It was a strange experience doing it in HO.
Can you guys hear me now?
You wrote up an article for me on this one, Bill.
I did.
I
Yes.
think Greg, were you just saying something?
Oh, you can hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes.
Woohoo!
I switched my microphone input and it must have automatically switched off. Anyway, Stephen, I want to say I'm starting that one right now, finally. I've had it for a year. And
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I've just gotten the color combinations together and I'm going to probably start it tomorrow.
Cool. You know, you look at the photos and you can always find the flaws in a model. And the one thing that bothers me is that the smokestack is just too tall. So, oh well,
I know.
what are you going to do?
Stephen, of all the kits that you've produced and designed, what's your favorite?
My favorite.
Your favorite?
My favorite. That's a tough question.
That'd be the Speeder oil shed.
Well, these are all
It must be the Rockport Freight House.
It must be. So it's not just my own, for other people too?
Whatever.
I don't think I have a picture of the house. No, I don't. Yes. Well, that would be most difficult. Not necessarily my favorite. That's a tough one. Favorite. I don't know. I guess I'll go with Shorty's just because it was my first one where I did all by myself.
Gotcha.
Gotcha. You know, it was from here's the photo to design to release. First time doing the full set of assembly instructions all by myself. probably Shorty's. You know, the one that sold the best has been the Tobacco Barn. This thing sells like crazy. I have it in N scale, HO scale, S scale, and O scale, and I'm always replenishing the stock on the shelf because these kits sell well.
I built
It's
that
a
up in
simple,
John Porter. It was a nice kit.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
got to
It's
build
very
mine someday
simple,
too.
but they're all over the place. You know, in the southeast, and you know, and it can pass for any kind of a barn shed type of a thing. That thing has sold really well over the years. This is one of my newer ones, the Boone Warehouse. And for those of you who know Ken Anderson, he's
Well,
in
that's what that was in.
North Carolina. He suggested this one for me. And it used to exist over in Boone, North Carolina. And he believes that it was on the, what was that rail? What's that railroad out there? The,
East Tennessee, Western North Carolina.
yeah, the Tweetsie, yep.
Yep.
So we believe that it was on the Tweetsie at one time. And, you know, by itself, it's kind of a pretty ho-hum structure, but to add some interest, I added the interior detail with some column structure and all the rafters, and you could do a removable roof. So that's how I kind of made it my own.
That's neat.
But it's yeah, it's a simple structure, but it's intended to kind of match the prototype and be a universal warehouse type structure. And I have this available in N scale and HO scale, if I remember right.
Yeah, you know, as simple as it is, it's got personality where the windows are and the doors and stuff. It's a pretty cool building, actually.
Yep. And you know, it's got some section of corrugated siding, and the rest of it's probably aged clapboard, probably.
It's just a cool building.
Corrugated roof. That was a fun structure. You know, for those of you who follow, you know, Jeff at Carolina Craftsman Kits, we just recently finished the Cranberry Depot, and we did that in HO scale and O scale, and that was another Ken Anderson request. And oftentimes Jeff will just send that stuff to me, and so I did the design work on Cranberry Depot. That's a nice station and freight house. And
You got pictures?
I don't
Or
have
drawings or
any
anything?
here. No, I don't usually do all my work on this laptop. This is my work laptop, and so I bring stuff with me when I'm going traveling to work on. But everything else stays on my Railscale Models computer. But the Cranberry Depot, I guess we could find it on Jeff's website. But that's fairly new within the last couple of months. And then we converted it into O scale, and it sold several of those. But now it'll be under Paul Reeves' O scale site going forward. Here it is here, Cranberry Depot. So you can see that structure.
Oh yeah, that one.
Interesting structure.
It is.
So Jeff sold quite a few of these.
Especially with the one end being rounded like that.
Yep. Yep. You know, speaking of rounded, I'm working on another. Well, I have a request to work on another. I haven't started it yet. Another big station, and it's in, was it Columbia, South Carolina? Let's see if I have that one with me. Probably do.
There are two beautifully restored stations in Columbia, both of which are restaurants right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure if people are familiar with this one. I can zoom in.
Wow.
Is that the one up in Maine?
So apparently this design exists in several locations. It's a Canadian railroad design, apparently.
Yeah,
Because
Canadian Pacific, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I know the
And it also
station.
exists in South Carolina. Yeah, it exists lots of places. So this guy that asked me to do this is part of the, maybe it's the Southern Historical Society, and they have one down in South Carolina. And he asked me to put together this as a kit. so the historical society can sell it. So that's in my queue. It's in my work queue. But that's a pretty big, complicated station. Really, I guess just the end of the rounded section is the complicated part. But the cool thing is I have the complete set of architectural drawings. Very rare to have that. And that'll keep me busy going through that.
Wow.
Great building.
Yeah, it is. Very
Well,
unusual.
until somebody tells me to stop, I'm just going to keep talking.
Yeah, I've got a question for you on the, I was kind of poking around on your website and I see you have laser cut windows, but they're in cardstock as well. What weight of cardstock are you using?
Ooh. Honestly, I don't know the answer to that question. It's probably around 10 thousandths thick,
Okay,
roughly. It's a
okay,
little bit thinner than the 16 thousandths RC board.
okay,
I will say that the majority of the windows and doors that I sell, people request the RC board.
okay.
I will occasionally sell cardstock. The RC board is definitely going to be more rigid.
Right, yeah. Well, I do some paper models and stuff and, windows are the hardest and that would fit right in with the paper modeling.
Yes, it definitely would if you want to go that route. And they come out nicely. They're
Mhm.
just a little, they're going to be a little bit more fragile,
Right,
and they'll tend to absorb the acrylic paint a little bit more than the RC board, but they come out nicely.
uh,
So yeah, so I just jumped to the windows and doors section on my website, and I've got 60, 70 different product items listed, and it's across all the scales, HO, S scale, O scale, and I have some offered in N scale. I'm really almost reinventing the N scale lineup because these small detail parts that you see in HO and the larger scales, they really don't work well in N scale. So I'm redesigning them to be more like 1 or 2 piece assemblies rather than the detail scratch builder assemblies with sills and headers and trim, side trim.
right.
I'm
Well, once you get down
simplifying
to
it
N
more.
scale, you just can't, keep that level of detail, sometimes.
Right. So I'm reinventing the N scale, and you can see some examples here. Most of them are 2-layer assemblies with a trim, and then the windows panes will sit on the back of that trim with a slight overlap, and then set into your opening of your wall. That's really kind of my standard approach with N scale. And of course, you get a piece of pre-cut acetate glazing that goes with that.
Uh-huh.
So I've got tons of windows and doors out there. But then the cool thing is I'll do pretty much any custom window door design that anybody needs. I get lots of requests for custom windows and doors. Hey, here's a structure. Can you do the full set of windows and doors for the whole structure? And I can do that. Or I can just do some windows, whatever people need. But like, here's an example. Somebody requested, I want some rolling freight doors, whether they're 2-piece or single piece, that roll on the wheels that are at the top of the header. So I designed some, and I really started to add more details with, knot holes and distressing marks and nail holes, and you can see that with the red and the green. The reason why I use different colors is on the laser, you use a thing called color mapping, and you can set different power settings based on the color of the lines. And so I'll use red and green and blue. Blue is cut through, green is kind of like a thick scribe line, and then red is like a fine detail scribe line for nail holes and distressing marks. So that's kind of you're seeing a little bit of the detail that I get into with the laser designs.
You're like a
That's an
kid with a
example of
laser
one.
cutter.
Yeah, and I like doing CAD work. So, here's another example of some custom designs. I think it's O scale, actually. Let's jump to O scale. So somebody had asked, they had seen my church windows, and somebody said, I need bigger. I'm building a castle, a stone castle. And they wanted these huge Gothic windows. And I think they may have sent me a photo of something. I don't remember, but I ended up with this design. So you've got a full length one and a half length one. And, you know, in O scale, these things are enormous. 1.25 inches wide by 4 inches tall. I call them Gothic windows. And somebody asked for it, so I made it up and I sold it to them. And then, you know, I throw it on my website because you never know what people are going to look for. And a couple weeks later, somebody else bought them. So I was like, okay.
Oh, wow.
There's a whole
But I do a
whole
lot of
hobby of
custom
castle
windows.
modelers, so you know.
Yeah, you get into the gaming hobby.
Yeah.
People are building structures.
Steve, I
I
need
don't know.
to
What
ask
else?
you.
Sure.
Okay, in S scale, do you do red brick sheets, 8 by 10
Sure do.
or whatever? You do.
I sure do. So here's my S scale wall laminates. I've got brick, I've got stone, I've got aged brick. Pretty much everything, all in this category is available in all the scales. I've added some of these stone wall laser etched sheets in here in the last few years. But then there's brick with bonding rows, there's aged brick. Currently, this is all offered on either RC board or cardstock. But I have in the works, and I just, it's one of those things that it's on the back burner. I'm going to be releasing a whole lineup of etched brick on basswood. I've also got some brand new design files to laser etch into basswood to kind of give you some more distressing of the wood for that more three-dimensional effect. You know, and I'm not trying to compete with others in the market, but there's somebody else who does a really good job in that kind of product lineup, and I'm hoping to offer some products in that same realm.
What material do you offer now, Steve?
Right now, it's in RC board or laser board and cardstock. So it's intended to be like a laminate. So the RC board, you can buy it with the self-adhesive tape or not. And then you can cut it to size and you can laminate it to an interior structure. And, you know, cut from the backside, cut out the windows and doors if you want. That's kind of the idea of these laminate walls.
Like if you were doing a roundhouse, you could laminate.
I sell a lot of these brick laminates.
When you cut them out of wood, what about graining?
So
am I muted?
Most people don't seem to see an issue with it. You know, I put the bricks in the horizontal, with the horizontal grain of the basswood.
Right.
But once you add paint, I think that any wood grain kind of disappears.
Right.
For the brickwork anyway.
Yeah, as long as you turn the grain the correct direction for what you're lasering. I've done some
I always
lasers.
have the bricks aligned with the grain.
Right. I've done some laser kit things for people have me build, and they've had the laser cut across the grain instead of with the grain.
Really?
Yeah, it doesn't come out real well.
Interesting.
Kind of hard to weather it.
You know, somebody recently came to me and asked if I could do some laser cut walls in is it acrylic? Yeah, acrylic sheet, 16th inch thick acrylic sheet. And I had not worked with that material before, but he had a structure that he wanted, and he just wanted the walls done. And so I designed up the walls in CAD, and he bought the acrylic sheets and sent them to me. And we did some sample runs, and I got to practice my laser texturing technique on the acrylic, and it came out pretty well. So I, cut those up and sent them to him, and it was a big fire station kit that he was working on.
So you can laser cut acrylic and styrene and all that.
I can. I don't like to do a lot of plastics just because of the fumes, but I do, and I can, and I do occasionally.
And there's not a burn issue.
No, acrylic cuts beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
Styrene melts a little bit more.
Yeah, that's
You
enough
have
by a
to be
burn issue.
careful of- yeah, the styrene will definitely melt easier than the acrylic.
Mm.
Acrylic is holds up a little bit better. Any other specific questions anybody else wants to look at while I'm kind of messing around on the website here?
Steve, if you had your choice, would you prefer to do more custom stuff or just cut kits, have them on the shelf and send them out?
That's a tough question, Greg. That's a tough question. I really enjoy doing custom structure work. But maybe I just don't charge enough, but it really doesn't make enough money to do that by itself. Maybe I need to charge more. Hey Jack, should I bump up my prices or what?
Only for all you new customers.
Yeah, the new customers.
Sorry, Jack.
Or people who don't know you.
And we all know you now, don't we?
I think maybe part of the reason why I get so much custom work is because my prices are not high enough.
Well, I think part of it also is you enjoy designing stuff. You love working in CAD, and doing a couple of kits, once you've designed it, you're just putting it on the shelf. But custom work lets you play in CAD and try new things. And I think you enjoy that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a combination of my engineering background, my interest in architecture, and my interest in building construction. Bring that all down to the scale world, and that's why I love doing custom structures. Merging all those things together, it really is an enjoyable thing for me to do. I mean, I can literally be deep into designing a new structure, and I'll be on the computer for hours. I mean, my wife will come down at midnight saying, "What are you doing?" And it's just the time just goes. It just passes when I'm deep into something.
There's no way that you can charge appropriately for that. Trust me.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I like to tell people that I'm charging them by the hour, but the reality is I'm only charging them for about half the time I actually spend on it, just because I know it just gets to be outrageous. Somebody wants a structure, and I have a certain hourly fee that I think that I'm worth, but then they're not going to be able to afford it, and they're not going to buy it. So I try to find the right kind of balance between enough money to make it worth my while, but also give people what they want.
Yeah, I spent several years doing custom model building, and I never sat down to figure the hours versus the money I got for the model, because I knew it was about 50 cents an hour.
Yeah.
Well, let me see if I can't find it. I have some more photos here.
Can I go back and ask a question about the CP station that you brought up there?
Which CP station? Oh, the one that
Greenwood.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, can you tell me who's going to be putting that out eventually?
So it's a guy in South Carolina, and I don't know exactly what his affiliation is. And I thought he was worked with the Southern Historical Society. Unfortunately, I don't have all that information in front of me.
Oh, okay. No, I just kind of wondered, because it's a dead ringer for the depot that's in the town just next to me.
Yeah, I mean, so if you stay close to my Facebook page and or my website, I make announcements of things that I'm working on.
Right.
So, I've got this one. I'll say it's on my short list for the design queue.
Right.
But if Jack hears that, then he's going to say, like, well, how come my stuff's not in front of that? it's on my short list, and it's one that it's almost about a year and a half since he made the request. So it's really one that I need to get working on.
Okay.
Yeah, my Chesney
So I would
store's
say-
older than that.
And it's in Haywood, is it?
I don't remember exactly which town it's in.
Okay.
I think it said Greenwood on your drawing.
Oh, Greenwood. Yeah, Greenwood. I think
Greenwood.
Did it?
Yeah, I thought
Greenwood,
that's what
South
it was.
Carolina?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
I've actually taken a lot of
so, I
pressure
mean-
off Steve because there haven't been any train shows lately.
Okay, I'll watch out for
So we
that.
just we just did some I just did some stuff for Jack to start getting him into O scale. So hopefully he's got some stuff to keep him busy. So that's the thing is I can design and cut a prototype build, and I got people that can build them. So now the problem is I can design and get something built way faster than I can do the instructions. So I've got about 6 structure kits that are built in pilot mode sitting on my shelf, and I haven't gotten into the instructions yet. So here's one of them. This is called Ashley Station, and this one I'm drawing a blank as to where it is. There's the real structure, and this was a custom request. And I said, "Can I turn it into a kit?" And they said, "Sure." So they paid me a certain price for their version of it, and then I've got my buddy that built up a pilot model. This is a work in process. It's not complete in this photo, but that's a nice little small brick station. Illinois. This one's in Illinois. That's what it is.
Could be
So
anywhere.
that's one that's in the works.
If you do a model in
Delmar
HO,
Station.
are these models easy to scale up to another scale?
Typically, yes. And you can scale it up, and then I just have to go back and look at some of the details like the corner posts and the mullions on the windows and doors and stuff like that.
Okay, so
Those are the things that have to be adjusted.
Okay, it's not just a direct copy up or enlargement.
Almost. It's certainly where I start, and then I do some tweaks.
Okay.
Well, you did the O scale gas station for some guy in Europe or someplace where in the 3/8 scale or half inch scale. Yeah, remember that?
Yeah, F scale or something like that.
Yeah. It became huge.
Yeah, there's a German guy over
Yeah.
that was in Raleigh, and I worked with Bill, and we did an O scale country store and gas station that was centered that was located north of Raleigh.
Yeah, in Creedmoor.
And this guy from in Creedmoor, yeah, this guy from Germany saw it, and he's a large scale modeler, and said, "Can you do this in 1 to whatever scale?" And I said, "Sure." So I converted that one up, and
is it easier to scale up or down?
I would say it's easier to scale up because when you go down, the mullions on the windows get too small, and then
Okay.
you got to adjust all of those. Going up, it's okay if they're a little oversized. Going down, they get too small.
Okay.
But overall, it's not really that difficult going in either direction. The picture you're looking at here is another custom structure. This is Delmar Station up in Delmar, not Rhode Island, Delaware. And so this was, again, he had literally one picture of this thing. Can you make a structure out of it? And so I had to take some modeler's license to figure out what the other 2 sides of the building look like. But the reason why this guy was so anxious to have this model done is he had a friend of his that was an older gentleman who lived and grew up and lived in Delmar and used to go to this station, and he had the picture of it on his wall. And it was his like 90th birthday or something coming up.
Wow.
In like 6 weeks, right? I'm serious. In 6 weeks, hey, this guy's birthday, can you make a custom model of this for me? And I had to give him time to build it still. So I designed and laser cut this whole thing in about 5 weeks.
Jeez.
Wow.
And this
And
is a
left him a week
monster
to build
structure. And this is, well, I didn't build it. I got somebody to build it for me. So I sent one to the guy up in Delaware, And then I made another one for myself, and my friend here in Asheville built one up for me as for my own pilot model. And this is his structure here. Very, very intricate roof work. I did something a little different. Rather than using raised seam roofing, I used scribed construction paper. It kind of gives the appearance of raised seam without the cost.
Cool.
And it's a little easier to apply.
Mhm.
But this is all brick, 2-story, big roof support brackets, all laser cut windows and doors. The little wagon doesn't come with it, but you can see the little dude through the window. Can you see the little dude through the window?
Yeah.
Wow.
My buddy here that builds models up for me likes to add lots of little details. You got pigeons on there.
Yeah.
So this is Delmar Station. Again, it's done, sitting on my shelf. I just need to do the instructions. I got some more of these. So Fort Erie, here's another one. Custom structure. This one's based out of Canada. Again, a brick structure, very cool details on the brick. And again, the guy sends me some photos. Can you do this for me? I'm like, sure. Can I make a kit out of it? He says, yes. And so he gets one, and then I get one, and my buddy here in Nashville built up the prototype for me. And it's sitting on my shelf waiting for instructions.
So you'll eventually be doing that, kit?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah. And again, this is a smaller brick structure station, so it's a little bit more affordable. You know, those big, huge brick stations like Elkins and Delmar Station, those big brick ones are more costly than these smaller ones. And this one actually, I think, stood in Canada.
Yeah, it did. Fort Erie's in Canada.
Okay. So I guess that's the last of the photos I have on things that are on the shelf.
Well, listen, I hate to do this, but it's approaching 9 o'clock here.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we go to questions? Does anybody have any questions for Stephen?
Please don't ask if I can do a custom structure for you in 4 weeks.
How about 5 weeks?
Yeah, okay.
Steve, it's always great to see
How
you.
about in 4 years?
I have a question. What's your screen background there? Is that Colorado or something?
Oh, I don't know. It's just one of those screensavers that comes with Windows. It changes every once in a while. So if you guys want to see what I was doing in the last week, because I was in California working over at Tesla.
Oh.
And we were looking at throughput issues that they're having on their assembly line, and I created a visualization tool. There's two, if you can imagine, the blue squares and the yellow squares are two parallel assembly lines for the Model 3 Tesla. And each one of those blocks represents the assembly stations. And what we're giving them in this visualization tool are their top 10 stations for downtime, overcycle, starved, and blocked. So they have a data system that collects that data. We can dump it into a Excel file, and it automatically updates this chart for a day-by-day report.
Oh.
That's neat.
Isn't that exciting?
Wow. Well, no wonder you don't need to charge for custom work.
Yeah, I do. I get paid.
I like the structures better. I like the structures better.
Yeah. Well, this is the part-time day job that helps me pay for being able to have a part-time side job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but now, what of your skills does this use more? Data collection or design work, or?
Which is that? My day job?
Well, the designing that kind of I guess, flow chart for down areas at Tesla. How
So,
does,
you know, my how to manipulate data and how to create tools in Microsoft Excel.
okay,
That's something that I've been doing for 30 years, and it's a skill that I guess some people say is fairly unique, to be able to take an idea sketched up on paper, because I was working with another guy out there who had this idea, and he said, can you make this happen? And in a couple of days I was able to build that tool, and now, you know, they're using it, they have the ability to use it. I mean, they already had the database system that collects the data and dumps it to an Excel file, and then I just created the tool that takes it and puts it into a visualization tool.
wow. Well, I'm constantly amazed at what Excel can do.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, well, in the printing industry, you know, most of our designs come out of Photoshop and InDesign, and we had one guy who he could design graphics in Excel, and we're going, how do you do that? And he goes, oh, you just put in the numbers.
Just put in the numbers.
Yeah.
All right, so we drove Bill Davis away with talking about engineering stuff.
Well,
Anybody
listen,
else have other questions about anything I shared, or anything else you want to hear about rail scale models?
Nothing I can think of.
Stephen, thank you. Steve, thank you so much. Can't thank you enough for doing this tonight. It's been very, very exciting for me, and I'm sure everybody else. And if you take as long as you've taken with us, we really do appreciate it.
It's always good to see you, Steve.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thanks everybody for paying attention and
Thank you.
bearing with me as I go through all my stuff.
Don't forget to send me that guy's contact.
I sure will.
Thank you. So next time,
Thank you.
so next time we've got a modeler, CJ Riley. CJ and I go back a ways. He's also an MMR in California. He just wrote a book not too long ago, and I think you're really going to enjoy hearing about him and what his modeling's all about and what his book's about. So thank you all again for coming tonight, and we'll see you next time.